Hello. Herschel says God hates the English. It's true. It's why I was sent here as a plague upon them. They can't even necessarily detect that I'm foreign. Very rarely will they detect that I'm foreign. Sometimes they'll think I'm Canadian. I don't think I've ever been... I was going to say I don't think I've ever been pegged. I've certainly never been pegged. But I don't think anyone has first shot gotten that I'm from the US. They get close, normally like Canada, but I don't think anyone's nailed that I'm American. Yeah. Why do I start early? You want us to miss this cool-ass music and this coughing voice? The music was indeed from The Bazaar. The Bazaar was supposed to launch at the start of this month, or, go into open beta at the start of this month, but they pushed it back 1 month, which is probably a good idea because they're still doing tons of balance tweaks. But it's crazy. The Bazaar has gone through like a dozen metas, and it's only been in closed beta so far. It's like, kind of makes it a nightmare to keep up with casually, but it's gonna keep you on your toes if they keep this up. How yellow am I? I don't really know. Can't really tell. Hello, Wolfie. Mestre de Pizza. Is that the Brazilian pizza video people keep telling me to watch? I can, look it up. If you want. You think I'm evil Northern Lion? I think Northern Lion's evil Northern Lion. If anything, I'm the good Northern Lion. On the basis that he's Canadian. Mestre de Pizza. This better not be gore or something. 4 minutes 10. Is this just a guy making pizza? Now, I'm not very pizza-pilled. I don't love pizza. I've made some basic pizza doughs. I've made some basic pizzas. I've never made the cool pizzas. I've never made the high hydration doughs that are annoying and sticky. I've just made some very basic recipes. It's fine. If I could choose to have the ingredients that are on a pizza in any other formulation than on a pizza, I probably would. But if people are having pizza, I'll have pizza. I would never go out of my way to have a pizza. However, we've had a special request, and people have requested this multiple times, I think. Right, people have said, do the Brazilian pizza video. This seems to be the Brazilian pizza. Good start of stream voice, says Abe Awesome and posts coughing at me. I just ate I ate a little pot of noodles. Kung Pao noodles, and they were very gooey, and when I eat glooby things, my throat goes funny. I also had KFC for lunch. Because we went to KFC. I got the Mighty Bucket for one. I didn't have the Christmas burger again. I have one Christmas burger a year. Oh yeah, I should show you my food discovery first, or Lucky Bee's food discovery first. We're looking at things to do in Japan. We are planning. We're not going to Japan until next winter, but we need to know what we're going to do. Right? So Lucky Bee found this one walk you can do, where there's an abandoned train track that goes through some spooky tunnels, and the hike goes past a nice river and stuff like that, and there is a place you can go and stop and eat on your way through the hike. She decided to use Google Translate on the webpage to find out what the food is called. They offer such delicacies as burnt baby for just 1900 yen. You can get burnt baby. Alternatively, if that is too expensive for you, if you can't afford that, you can have a nice bowl of asthma for just 700 yen. The website also advertises that it has all the classic flavors of a pea shack. Anyway. This is self-explanatory. You can tell what this is. I don't know what this is. I genuinely do not know what the hell this is. It looks like a couple dumplings and gravy with ocha and I don't know, little shreds of seaweed, or maybe that's shreds of preserved plum or something. I don't know what it is. I have no idea. What in the fuck is it? It's the burnt baby's eyes. Yeah. Oh. I love that all the responses to that post are just people going, oh, here's where you can go for a good hike. Like, they're like, burnt baby? Yeah, asthma. Yeah, I've been to Japan. That's normal food. That's what they eat there. Sorbet's been having a rough time, by the way. It's been very stormy in the UK. She's been traumatized. Fucking look at her. She is not happy. She is fucked up. Anyway, Mestre de Pizza. Why am I pronouncing it like that? I don't know how to say it. Mestre de Pizza. The Pizza Molester has been recommended multiple times. And you know what? We'll start with this, then we'll do another food video. Then I have some media videos. Heckin' Marvel video, I think. We've got a Minecraft video. We've got a gay fighting game video. But first, some food. I'm in a food mood. I uploaded a food VOD today. Food VOD highlight today. About the bread tube guy. Mestre de Pizza. Mestre de Pizza! Badaboopy, shagoopy. How's the crop on this? Alright. Mestre de Pizza. I've made some pizza in my time. Some very simple ones, like I said. Never done any of the cool ones. Never made like a high hydration dough, Neapolitan. I struggle a bit with pizza dough just from the like sticking to your hands. No matter how much I try to use flour, it sticks to my hands. And then I use so much flour trying to stop it to stick that I like end up using too much flour and it gets incorporated into the dough and it ends up not being what I want. It ends up tasty and whatever, but it's not. My pizza making skills, not great. Needs a lot of practice. Need to try more variety. So I can't be too harsh. However, I will say my immediate reaction to this is I've watched a bunch of tutorials on making pizza. Watched a bunch of professionals making pizza. I've tried it myself. I don't remember the dough ever being in that precise state. I don't remember the dough ever being in, like, fat disc. I do not remember the fat disc that you stop touching stage. Okay, he's pushing it more. He's just pushing it down. I mean, it's getting there, right? It's getting into the shape. Looked weird at first, it's getting into the shape. This seems fine. Oh, no! Quick, fix it. And then that patch is going to be a different thickness to everywhere else. You got to turn it into a ball again. You got to return it to ball shape and then start again. You can't. It's fucked. You have to stop. Would be my judgment as a non-professional. It's got an old man butt wrinkle now. Ah! Ah! That's just the juice from canned tomatoes. That's not a sauce. And that's all of it! Why is he putting maggots on it? Wait, is that rice? No, what am I looking at? Ah! One would presume it's cheese, but it doesn't look like just cheese. It looks like crab meat mixed with sweet corn. What am I looking at? And there's so much of it. It's gonna absolutely... That is gonna leak moisture and ruin the dough while it cooks. The first time I made pizza, I used fresh mozzarella and I used too much fresh mozzarella, and the mozzarella just pissed out all the moisture and like ruined the crust. Like, I screwed up a pizza once and it was my first time making it from scratch, and I was like, oh, I'll use really nice mozzarella. Don't, because it will piss out all the moisture. I presume something similar is going to happen here with whatever the hell that is. But I don't even know what the hell what am I looking at? It looks fermented. The Brony murder we might look at today, might look at tomorrow, we'll see. Oh, I do not know what's happening. Is that mayo? There's so much. What is it? Whoa! Fucking guys making a savory baked Alaska, where instead of meringue on top, it's gonna be mayonnaise. And then sweet corn. Oh God! Like he shouldn't put more on, but at the same time, I'm surprised he didn't. You get what I'm saying? You shouldn't put more on, but at the same time, I expected him to put more on. Yeah, get in there. It's where you belong. Get into the kindling. Curl up. Will this come out looking better than it did going in? I think it's going to come out and just have a bunch of, like, singed bits on top. He uses pizza boxes as fuel? What just happened? I feel like I'm having a psychotic break. I don't know what the... I can identify, like, mayo and sweet corn, I think. Or maybe some sort of, like, roux-based cheese sauce, perhaps, instead of... I don't know. Now he appears to be burning... He's preheating the box. Okay. I think he put it in pretty deep. I think he's just burning it. The entire center of that pizza is absolutely just going to be uncooked with that much topping on it. There's going to be like... There's like no way. Obviously it's super hot in there, so like the outside of the dough on the bottom is going to get like cooked and singed. But I feel like that amount of topping is going to stop it from cooking all the way through to any real degree. I mean, in a really hot pizza oven, to be fair, General Jack Ripper, you do not cook it that long. But with that much liquid shit on top of it, that changes things, I would suggest. It's floppy. See what I'm talking about? He looks at it. He can see that it's just totally floppy, but he's looking at it. He's looking for the outside to be like charred, but is ignoring how cooked it is. Oh, I don't know, man. There's a local kebab place I got a pizza from for Lucky Bee once. And I went there after like 20 minutes of ordering, and the guy had just put the pizza in. And he put the pizza in, and every 10 seconds he'd open the pizza oven and like look underneath the pizza, close it. Open it, look underneath the pizza, and close it. Man. That was the same place where we also ordered chips with cheese. Easiest thing in the entire world. You put chips in the fryer, put them in the box, put cheese on top. Easy. My man somehow fucked that up. He cooked the chips, he put them in the box, got a handful of cheese out of the freezer, and wedged the cheese next to the chips. So one, there was no chance of it melting, and two, even if it did, it would not be on the chips. Just demented. We never went there again, obviously. And every time I go past this place, they have a little heating container that they put their fried chicken in. And they will literally have like a pile, a mound of 30 pieces of fried chicken. Just this mass with a heat lamp on it. If you order that, you will die. You will die if you get fried chicken from this place. I guarantee it. Not only that, but it will be horrible because you can see how like wet it is, and all of the pieces of chicken always have little bald spots where they're not coated. Alright, let's go. See the final product. Is he ready? It's coming. Oh. Okay. People shit talk deep dish, Chicago deep dish, when this exists. We should all be united against this. He should have thrown it straight into the trash. Just straight into the trash, man. Oh. The box was for kindling. He was not preheating the box as some of you suggested. He was burning it. I guarantee it. That is what happened. We saw it. Now, funnily enough, my girlfriend found another food video for me. I love watching food videos, and we have reason to. I try to be sparing in my food obsession, as much as I can. But we have a special one. Our boy, Gary Eats, the sauce master, the man who will not eat a meatball if there are not identifiable pieces of meat. Right? Chicken meatball? Oh, it's a homogeneous lump, you know, as meatballs are. Thought there was going to be a piece of chicken in it. He can't eat that. Tons of sauce? Delicious. He'll be happy with a lot of things. He normally goes out of his way to see the good in things and not be too harsh. So, believe you me, I was excited to see a total condemnation from Gary Eats. The worst steakhouse in Britain. Do not go here. If the thumbnail is representative, Jesus Christ. That is, I don't even know how a steak ends up like that. Is it even a crust at that point? It has an oily ass. The ass end is oily. the face end is more than a crust. It looks like it's burnt. Beyond caramelization, it's fucking burnt and dry as hell, and the other end is oiled. What am I looking? How do you do that? And then that garnish is just like... They should have skipped it and just spat directly in Gary's face when they served it to him. What is this? Let's find out.
It's wonderful to see you today, because it's always wonderful to see you. Where are we today? We're just off Bond Street. Now I'm going
just off Bomb Street. It's a street celebrating London's multiculturalism. You just reminded me. Someone said they find Gary too chummy. I don't mind it. He's chummier than most YouTubers I would choose to watch. Sure. But I find it okay because he's of a slightly older vintage, and I think it has more to do with his age than being like a parasocial YouTubeoid. Having mentioned chumminess, though, there is a video you need to remind me to watch after this. In fact, I'll tee it up. I'll add it to my tabs. Whoop. Bam. All right.
to a steakhouse, and it's behind me, the Angus Steakhouse. There's 5 of them here in central London. Now this had...
Unfortunately, Gary wasn't aware that this was a rebrand. Until a couple months ago, it was in fact called the Anus Steakhouse. But it gave people too fair a warning and they had to change it.
A terrible, terrible reputation.
Ooh, how much do you think it cost? This is a tough one because...
3 times 12 plus 3.
Scary Megatrons. 3 times 12 plus 3? 39? Thank you very much. Every Father Salvo, please. I don't know what he ordered. We saw that steak. It's something calling itself a steakhouse. That's how they serve a steak. I think for that steak they charged him £17.50. We'll see if he tells us the individual prices. I'll guess, like, if he doesn't tell us before the end how much it cost total, I'll try and guess.
Overpriced, poor quality steaks. However, online recently, the reviews have gone like whoosh. Some fantastic reviews, and I was like, wow, no. You know, new menu. Hopefully, it's all changed. I mean,
new menu, new bots. Gary, oh no.
Jay Rayner, he's a food critic here in the UK. He's absolutely slammed it. But these reviews have got really good.
I have some experience with Jay Rayner reviews, and I haven't read them in a long time. When I was into reading critic reviews of places, I did respect Jay Rayner's opinion.
Checked it last night, and these reviews apparently are all fake.
Yeah, no shit! They were struggling, and then suddenly a bajillion super positive reviews showed up. Yeah, I appreciate you sharing this, Gary, but you didn't need to tell me.
I'm very confused, and you know me, it doesn't take much to confuse me. So I thought, well, come on, we'll give it a go. I'm really hoping that these reviews aren't fake. As always, let's give it a go.
No.
Please, please, please don't be lying.
Gary knows what he's doing, though. He knows he's walking into hell.
Please.
Look at like, you already know it's going to be horrible just because of those dangling lights in the window. Oh. Oh, man! Home of London's best steak sandwich, as voted by Reddit community. You're going to get blood poisoning. You're going to get every disease known to man. No, that is the point at which you turn around. Yeah, Gary, no. Gary, no! Turn around. They're going to charge you £3 for a little tub of peppercorn sauce. Run away. Gary, no! All right. Thank you, Raz. Okay. Oh man.
Thumbnail looks like a clean plate wasted.
pretty much. Oh, British potted beef starter, $10.75. Baked camembert, $9.50. Calamari for $7.95. The chicken wings are $7.95 and they don't specify number. Corn riblets. Bro, the corn is the thing they use a picture of. French onion soup. £8.50. These are not the prices at a place that looks like this. Rump steak, £23 for a 10-ounce steak. So I'm going to go ahead and say my $17.50 was extremely wrong.
Here we are, we're sitting outside. It's far easier to film outside than inside, that's why we're here. Now, first impressions. Staff excellent, no issue there. It's empty.
Look at that little kids menu in the window. That was drawn by a furry as well.
Whenever there's an empty restaurant, I always have fear and trepidation.
I don't know that it's a chain. Because he's talking about this restaurant in particular being slammed. I don't know. I don't know if I've seen this around.
Totally empty. On to the menu. Usual, and obviously specialises in steaks. But again, you can have fish and chips there. Just to let you know, fish and chips, $19.90.
That's I would suggest a bad sign. Yeah, that's a really bad sign. If we're like, we're the steakhouse, yeah, but you can have fish and chips. You can have a chicken pie or
$5. Under starters. Now, what am I going to go for? I'm going to go.
Like, if the steaks are that price and they do a ton of other stuff, warning, 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 red flag, unless it's an actual nice place. If it has a kids menu in the window that looks like that, the steaks are that price, and they do other stuff, something is wrong. This does not line up.
For the corn riblets, $7.95. And I'll tell you why I want to have them, because I had them in fallow, absolutely awesome. And so they're here, and I thought, well, got to give it a try, and let's try and compare them.
Also, yes, Mark as well. True. The biggest red flag. Best sandwich as voted by Reddit community. What? Did they make their own subreddit and then have their staff vote? And even then, they only won by 2 votes.
Both, so which is basically corn riblets with house seasoning and sriracha mayonnaise. Then, now this is where it gets confusing for me. Under house steaks, they buy their house steaks from South America. It doesn't specify whereabouts, but that's where they get them from. And I'm going to give you an example. 10 ounce.
They don't know either. There's just a South American guy who shows up with a van.
Sirloin is $28.95. Then, to add more confusion, they've then got the Jack's Creek steaks, which come in from Australia, and for the 10-ounce sirloin, it's £38. However, I want to support UK farming, and under here it says British and Irish steaks, sirloin steak, 10-ounce, 40 day, £40, 31-day aged, with creamy tallow and a satisfying.
I have a bad feeling that's the same stuff you get at Sainsbury's.
Yeti Culture fed the streamer a 250 Superberry. Codename 47. Your
Yes.
assignment, should you choose to accept it, or not if you have
No.
already, is to review Destiny's Tubular Steakhouse experience on stream.
I appreciate it. I appreciate the donation. I will not be watching gay revenge porn on my stream. I'm sorry.
Flavour. Now, if it's going to be that much more expensive, and then you're looking at
Nor will I be watching straight revenge porn, to be clear.
sort of £11 and
Or off stream.
and a pound, you'd expect it to be.
We work with small sustainable farms across the UK, such as... This is what you see in a supermarket. But even in a supermarket, normally if you read the packaging, they specify sometimes. Not normally, sometimes they'll specify. At a restaurant, they're not...
Real quality. They're saying it's grass-fed, traditionally reared. They're saying that's to achieve the best possible flavour. I'm really hoping this is great. You know, good marbling in there. I want it to come out. I've ordered it medium rare. I want it juicy. I want it cooked fantastically well. But then I'm also going to go for a sauce. So you've got to pay extra for the sauce. I'm going to go for the red wine sauce. That's £3. And then on the sides, the beef dripping fries.
Yeah, Circle Lurk, I'm going to have to agree with you there. The picture. Steaks, even at these prices, which aren't at the like extreme end or anything, but these are still like the price you'd pay for like a really nice steak. Still pretty nice. The picture is like a red flag. I agree. This is the sort of menu you get at a takeaway that sells curries, fish and chips, kebabs, everything. This is not a steakhouse's menu.
No, I'm going to get the chips. No, let's get the beef dripping chips.
Again, the kids' menu design in the background is a gigantic red flag.
£4.50. So I'm looking altogether there, £50. So basically, it's just shy of £50. But
oh yeah, did we see the sauces?
For steak, chips, and a sauce. Yeah. If you like your mushrooms, they're fine.
For an amazing steak at a place with great ambiance, £50. Sure, could even be a great price. At this place, that's frightening. You're getting ripped.
£5. I didn't go for that. Don't know why. I was very tempted. Not. Okay. Let's
what was
go
five?
for that. Far off £50 for steak, chips, and a sauce.
Hang on. What was £5?
Yeah. If you like your mushrooms, they're £5. I didn't go for that. Don't know why. I was very tempted. Not. Okay. Now it's fingers crossed time. You know, I'm really hoping that these reviews that are online are genuine reviews, because if it's not, it's a little bit naughty, isn't it? And again,
I believe it's illegal, but you know, it's not really followed up on, is it?
it's a steakhouse, and you'd expect, because it obviously has lots of steaks on the menu, they specialise in it, you'd expect pure quality. So that's what we're going to go for. Glass of water, like that. Nice clean glass, I'm going to say that. And
Do you think Gary specified tap water? And if he didn't, how much do you think they charged him for that water?
that's my riblets. So all in all, ta-da! Proper knife that is as well. Cool, blimey. Cameraman
cool.
better behave himself, hasn't he?
Cool looking knife.
Just joking, just joking.
I really like the knives they give you at Flatiron. Flatiron? You'll pay like what, £15 for a Flatiron steak that's gonna be cooked like beautifully, just perfectly and simply seasoned with salt and pepper. The sides are incredible. The little knife they give you is a little cleaver. For like half of the price of going to this place, you're gonna get a great experience. So let's try and measure this against like Flatiron or something, like essentially a budget steak place.
Okay, see you when the corn riblets arrive. 3 minutes later, and it was 3 minutes, they've arrived.
Do people normally have sauces with their £45 steak? Me? No, because I don't get the opportunity to too much. But there certainly are people who go to really nice upscale steak places, get really nice steaks, and do like having sauce, especially peppercorn sauce, or they might like putting a bunch of garlic on it as well. If I was able to get nice steak all the time, maybe I would too. My bias towards no sauce on the steak, if I'm getting an expensive steak, is down to me not being rich. So my view might not be right. They look a bit pedestrian, to say the least. One would expect like a nice, I guess, like bit of sear marks on them to make them riblets instead of just, I don't know, slightly grilled bits of corn.
A bit worried there, actually. 3 minutes, that wasn't very long. Yeah.
Something's weird about them. Is this microwaved?
First impressions, they're a lot longer than the ones I had in fallow. It comes with a sriracha sauce, but is it appealing on the eye? It's not as...
I need them to bite into it and tell us. I have a bad feeling they grill a bunch of corn and then microwave it for service.
as appealing, but then again, it's just corn on the cob, isn't it? So paying what, nearly £8 for... Is that a whole corn? Just putting it around?
Oh yeah, maybe it is deep fried. Wouldn't it be... I don't know. Wouldn't it be more consistent? The browning on the kernels would be more consistent with a deep fry, wouldn't it? Am I crazy? You'd expect there to be black bits if it was grilled, though. Yeah, maybe you are right, it's deep fried.
3/4 of a corn. Take a look on the edges here. That's overdone. I can already tell that's overdone. That's almost popcorn. But
Yeah, you're right, it is deep fried. It's hard to... The corn being yellow and me having these glasses on is fucking me up.
let's taste them. Let's see what they're all about.
But why is it so all over the place if they deep fried it? I don't know, I'm crazy. I feel like I'm losing my mind.
The corn kernels come straight off. No issue with that. However, they're a little bit hard on the outside. They're a bit hard.
It's deep fried, okay.
Wow. I make better at home, and I don't charge myself £8 for 3/4 of a piece of corn. Now at Fallow, they had kombu seasoning on them. That really elevated it and made it a lot better. Let's see if I can actually do anything here.
Yeah, this is a trendy thing. These corn ribs for vegans. I've never tried it.
With the mayonnaise, let's chuck it in there.
The cut like this is normal. I've seen them. Like, I've seen people who've ordered them or whatever. I've never had them myself, though.
Yeah, that's okay. Thank you. It's okay? Yeah, it's okay. It's okay. It's nothing better than okay, but...
Oh, the sauce. Gary likes anything with a sauce. So if that doesn't fix it for him, you know something is insanely wrong.
That's just mayonnaise with a little bit of heat in it.
Yeah.
Nothing there, not an awful lot of spice in there. Is it blowing me away? No. No.
Come on, Gary. This is Gary being too nice. I told you, he's too nice.
It's basic, it's bland, it's slightly over, and yeah, it's okay. It's not unpleasant. Don't get me wrong, absolutely not unpleasant. The lady just said okay, and funny enough, she was right. Everything okay.
What is that, 50 pence worth of ingredients?
And that's what it is. Okay. So, okay, I'm going to finish up and hope that the steak's not kind of okay. For that money, I want it to be...
Be careful what you wish for, Gary. Don't phrase it like this. I hope the steak's not okay. The monkey's paw fucking curls. What have you done?
Brilliant. Okay, see you soon. Lots of okays in there.
That don't look right. That looks old. And I don't mean it looks aged. That looks like it was cooked a while ago. The chips could be okay.
It's arrived. I've got to say, it took about 15-20 minutes, so
The chips look like they might be alright.
no issue there. The only issue I have is, take a look at that. It's in my imagination, or is that not the biggest piece of steak I've ever seen? Put chip on there. Almost camouflage.
Hard to tell on the chips.
It's the situation. Those chips, nice colour to them. Take a look. They've already been seasoned.
And am I crazy, or does that steak look very strangely trimmed?
So,
Am I out of it?
I'll put them on in a second. I asked for some English mustard, absolutely no problem. And there's my red wine sauce as well. Let's just tuck in, I suppose. That's the only thing I'd say. Let's turn it over. Let's see if it's... yeah.
Oh.
So you have the searing on the outside.
It has sear marks, but it has no crust. And the other side is like sopping.
So, yeah. crikey. Just taking a look at that knife. Is that serrated enough? Because that took a bit. No issue with the cooking there.
How do you order it?
Medium rare. Yeah, I think that's okay.
Okay, fair enough.
Not convinced this has been rested.
I tend to go for rare or blue. There is a lot of liquid coming out. I agree with Gary. There's so much it's pissing itself onto his plate.
For an awful long time because juices are
Yeah.
coming out everywhere, as you can see. Let's try it. Okay, that bit a bit better.
Looks springy, I don't know. Ever have blue rare? Yeah, black and blue. Where you chill or freeze the steak, char the outside and have it super rare in the middle. That's cool. I tend to go just for regular, just rare though. Rare is nice. Oh God! I told you it looked springy. He said, look, okay, let's go back. Watch him cut it. He says that cut nicely, but look how spongy and springy it is. He's about to cut it, right?
Let's try it.
It's bouncing. It's bouncing.
A bit better.
His face makes it look like it's sour or bitter or something. Torturing him.
Crikey. That's a bit tough. Oh, that's gone down the wrong way.
And this was an aged one, wasn't it, as well? How could it even be this tough?
That's a bit chewy. To say the least, that's a bit chewy. First impression, so let's try it again. Cut it a bit thinner this time.
It's like roast beef. Did you see that ragged slice? Look at this
First
ragged
impression,
slice.
Let's try it again. Cut it a bit thinner this time.
Nah.
Say it's got a nice flavour, but it's too tough. It's not too tough because it's been cooked wrong. It's too tough because it's not a quality piece of meat. That is incredibly disappointing.
Do they pre-sear them then fry? With how shoddy this place seems to be, I would not be shocked if they like microwave it and then put like metal rods on it to give it sear marks. Maybe it's that Looney Tunes.
I'm going to try it again. I'm going to try it with some sauce, but I'm going to try a different side here.
He's giving it a shot.
Come on.
Bro, it's not the knife, Gary.
Let's take.
That's Bisto. That's instant gravy. Look at that. It's in clumps. You can see the little bits in it. That's instant gravy.
Now, please make that a bit more palatable so it can go down a little bit easier.
What is this?
I'll tell you, the lady just come out.
The steak is so bad it broke space-time momentarily. I don't know. I'm taking the piss a bit. It really does. It really does look like Bisto instant gravy, but maybe it's a nice red wine jus. I don't know.
He said, is the steak cooked the way you like it? I said, yeah, a bit chewy. Okay, great.
Okay, great.
Wasn't exactly the reply I was expecting, but it's just not great. It's not
It's so soggy on the outside as well.
quality piece of meat at all. No complaints in regards to the cooking, if you like. The resting could have been a lot better. That red wine sauce, I've got to say, is you can taste some raw.
Red wine sauce. It is meant to be like a red wine jus. It looks like instant gravy, and I could see little dark flecks as if it was made with granules.
Red wine in it. Don't go for that. It's kind of, as I'm tasting it, I'm actually getting a real strong taste of Worcester sauce out of it. But
oh no. Did they mix like Bisto, Worcestershire, and some red wine? What is...
This is going to be a struggle, I'll tell you what. I struggled chewing that. And the reason why I'm laughing is the cameraman said, "Is it chewy?" I was like, no, I won't say it. Onto the chips. Now, I said they're a nice golden colour. They've got
they
some
could be
seasoning
okay
on top, you see some salt. However, they're just frozen chips.
Yeah.
They're frozen. Okay, you accept that, but do you accept it? Hop. Okay. Boring. Boring. I don't know why I'm actually dipping it in there, because I wasn't a fan of that.
He can't resist! I told you he's the sauceman. You could give him a cup of diarrhea and he'd just unconsciously dip things in it. He can't stop himself.
Overall, what can I say? You guys online who put them reviews up saying this is absolutely fantastic.
You mean the owners of the store? You mean the staff doing overtime, posting fake reviews?
Unbelievable. The best steak you can get in London. You're not telling the absolute truth, are you? You're being a little bit naughty. For those of you who don't know, what's basically happened is Londoners, and it's gone viral, are saying to everyone, get in here, you've got to try the steaks because it is so brilliant. And they're trying to stop people going like Hawksmoor, Gauchos and all the rest of it because they're getting so booked up that people are struggling to get in. So they're saying, get into Angus because, it's far better. You're not telling the truth, as I said earlier on. Now, I'm going to struggle my way through this. And I am going to struggle my way through it. I just said to the camera,
there are 6 more minutes. Do you think he gets dessert?
and do you want to try some? And he said, no chance. It's 50 quid, guys. Just shy of £50. This is just not like the greatest. It's definitely that knife. It's got to be that knife. Onwards and upwards.
Yeah, 50 quid for this meal.
Tally ho and all that. I'll tell you what.
It's damaging him. Giving him TMJ issues from this meal.
They're going to get jaw ache after this.
Permanently wounded by Angus Steakhouse.
So the summing up's going to be really short. They'll be like, oh. See you soon. Dessert? Do I want a dessert?
Yeah, do it. It's gonna be like some Dairy Lee cheesecake they defrost for you. Like it's the dessert, like the chips, is gonna be fine. I guarantee the dessert will be fine.
No, I don't want a dessert. So next time you see me, I'm going to pay the bill and give him my final thoughts. This could take about 4 hours though, because some English mustard, liven things up, clear the old nasals and all that.
That is very yellow. That is not English mustard, okay? I'm pretty sure that is just American, like French's mustard.
Add a bit of flavour. Anyway, gotta say, some of you turn around and say, Gary, you've got the greatest job ever. Do you know, 99% of the time, I certainly have. And I'm very, very lucky, and I do appreciate it, and I am very lucky. But sometimes, today, it's not so good. And so it's not such a pleasant experience. Yeah, I'm sitting here thinking, do I want to munch my way through? Can't waste it. See you soon.
There you go. Gary's last video.
Got the bill, I've paid the bill, and I'll go through that in a second.
Place your bets now. Will there be a mandatory service charge? Well, I mean, they can't do that. I believe they have to, unless they warn you beforehand. you have to be able to, turn it down and say, no, take that off. But do you think they'll try to add one?
Just says down here, yeah, we now do breakfast and check it out. A new breakfast menu, no chance, don't even ask me to do that. And I've also got this here, reviewers and access exclusive loyalty perks. That's what I think most people could be doing. I'm going to tell you my final thoughts, take a look around. The plants are a bit artificial, and unfortunately, that's what it is. It's an artificial steakhouse. I'm certainly not going to film that in. I don't want to come back. See you very, 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 very soon.
Offered loyalty rewards, screams, no, please, I'll pay anything. Don't make me come back.
Didn't me. It's still daylight. It took me ages to eat that steak. Absolutely ages. Ah, dear. Did I get my money's worth? I certainly got my time's worth, that's for sure.
It's over.
Jaw time.
It's never been more over.
Back's hurting. Wallet's hurting.
Yeah.
It's all pain and no gain.
50
See you
quid.
soon. Come on. Oh, dear.
For what looks like deep fried, then chilled, then reheated corn, and then whatever the hell they did to that poor steak.
Me. Tourist trap. No doubts about it. Tourist trap.
Yep.
Worst steakhouse I've been to. That was truly shocking. I'll start. The restaurant itself is nice.
His shit is going to bounce out of the toilet. That steak was so rubbery. He shouldn't have done it. He should have just not eaten it.
Clean, there's no issues, service is okay. And, how's the steak? Is the steak cooked? Okay. Yeah, the steak's okay. Good. It's a bit chewy though. Okay. Everything was okay. It wasn't okay. Start off with the corn, that was okay. The weird thing is I did have a bit of sriracha on the last bit of corn I had, so it wasn't evenly spread all the way through. It wasn't unpleasant, it was okay, but that's what it was just simply average. But the steak, come on guys, I'm going to tell you the price in a second, but if I tell you it's just shy of £50 for them frozen chips, that piece of steak which was cooked okay.
Sorry, wait, the 50 doesn't include the starter. Wait, sorry, the £8 corn is not included in that 50. Is that what you're telling me?
Okay, there's no issue with the cooking. What was the issue with it was it hadn't been rested long enough, and that could have done.
The thing with those steaks he got as well. So the Banana Man says steak was just a Tesco steak. I'm pretty sure the description of the steaks is exactly the description in the steak aisle at Sainsbury's.
A little bit more resting, and it was a bad piece of steak. There was no ways about it. The cameraman was laughing all the way through, and I was like, oh, this is absolutely dire. There's not an awful lot I can say nice about it. As I said, the chips are frozen. Did not like that red wine sauce with it at all. If you're going there, you're off your head. But if you're going there, definitely go for a different sauce. Overall experience wasn't great.
Just don't go.
So
do not go.
Let's tell you about this fantastic bill for my corn.
Service charge. Press 1 if you think there's a service charge. Press 2 if you think there isn't. Come on. You've all locked in. All right, let's go.
Riblets, £7.95. My ribeye, £29. The red wine sauce, £3. The dripping fries, £40.
That steak was £29. Specifically £29.
£4, £40.50, £4.50.
Sorry, what?
£3. The dripping fries, £40. £40.50, £4.50. Subtotal £50 the drip.
Hold up.
My ribeye, £29. The red wine sauce, £3. The dripping fries,
£3 for that sauce.
£40.50, £4.50. Subtotal £54.45. The usual service charge, 12.5%. Total 61.
12.5% service charge.
26, 61, 26. Check out our breakfast menu, no chance. Oh, damn, what marks am I going to give it? Oh my gosh, that was the worst. Salt Bays was better than that, and I can't believe I've said that.
Salt Bay. Okay, I think they said sorbets. Yeah, sorbets dinner is better.
I can't believe I said it. Yeah, but look, there is far better steakhouses to go to in London. You know, you've got Hawksmoor, you've got Gaucho's, Goodman's. They are proper steakhouses, serving quality steaks all round, they're the ones you should visit, without a shadow of a doubt. Now, some of you are going to turn and say, Gary, send it back. I can't keep sending it back. You know, it was chewy. It was cooked okay, but it was chewy. It was a bad piece of meat. Oh. People who are actually putting these reviews online, sort of saying, yeah, go there, go there. You're a bit naughty because tourists are going there and they're getting, you know, yeah. Oh, dear me. Marks I'm going to give it. I'm going to give it. I mean,
Does he do out of 10? Has to be 1, man. He's saying service was good. At least he did earlier. You tell them, like, yeah, it's cooked alright, but it fucking sucks and is chewy. And they just go, okay! That's not good service.
Spent a lot of money there. I mean, if that was 2 of you, I didn't have wine or anything, but £61.26, that's 2 of you, 120, 130, with wine, 150, 160 pound. Whew. Madness, like. I'm going to give it...
Maximum you can give it is 2 out of 10. You should just say, NA, I can't score this because that would suggest there's any reason to go here whatsoever. Come on.
I feel a bit mean. I'm going to give it 1.5 out of 10.
All
I'm
right.
going to give it 1.5 out of 10.
That's hard for Gary to do. That's hard for him to do. I think that's the lowest score he's capable of if they don't actively, like, harass him.
Waste of money. Absolute waste of money. Now, Jay Rayner came here and he said, shocking. Should have listened to you, Jay. Without a shadow of a doubt. Should have definitely listened to you. Guys, if you could like and subscribe to the channel, you know I always appreciate it. Now, what I would appreciate is... don't waste your money. Don't waste your money, seriously.
Yep.
Far better in London to go to than that. Until next time.
Pretty much anywhere.
Bye-bye. Great seeing you.
Pretty much anywhere. Go to Flatiron, man. Go to Flatiron. Whew. And it is a chain. There are a few of these in London. In London, it's been the same for 40 years. Yeah. And they can get away with it because it's a tourist trap. Because they've constantly got new marks filtering in, don't they? Filtering in and out. They hit you, they burn you for 60 a head. And then you're never going to be back there anyway. So what do they care? Yeah. Yeah. Jesus. Some people were saying they find Gary to be too chummy. Can I just, I don't know. I think VTubers are on another level. Because I mentioned VTubers recently. They're in my feed. They're in my feed. I don't want them in my feed, but they're in my feed and I see them. What the hell is this?
But little fish finds her way back home. Yes, I want to mention this because I just want you guys to know that when I say home, I'm always going to mean, speaking of individuals, I'm always going to mean you are my home, which is true. It doesn't matter, like, you know, where we are, but I feel
We are her home, sad face, 17k likes.
at home when I talk with you.
Like, nah, this is genuinely sickening. This, like, makes me ill. This is straight up unhealthy. Nah. This is the worst. You are my home. Hello, dear patrons. You are my home. Nah. No. Right. The odd phenomenon of villain worship. Oh. By the SEA. The SEA. It's like host club stuff, I guess. Sort of like that, right? But on a mass scale. The SEA has a video called The Odd Phenomenon of Villain Worship. This was recommended that I should watch it. Description. Villains in fiction are meant to represent everything we're not supposed to be. Instantly, already disagree. They show us what happens when selfishness, cruelty, and power lust go unchecked. Sometimes, but lately there's been this weird trend where audiences start siding with them. Recently. Never happened never happened before. Instead of recognizing villains as cautionary tales, people twist their motives into something relatable or admirable. Reinterpret, view it through a different lens, whatever. These villains don't actually have motives, okay? They're not real. Suddenly the bad guy is misunderstood or had a point, even when their actions are downright horrifying. Yeah? And the stakes. Okay. Omnislash. Thank you.
€2 Superberry. You're all my homos just wanting to see this.
Thank you, brother. You're my homo too. My homo. The stakes of humanizing and trying to understand or looking at a make-believe villain through a different lens is practically nothing, because whatever horrible acts they do in the story, they haven't really done it. They haven't really done it. Okay? Right? You can even get into the territory of like questioning, like, oh, but what if they did it differently? Are their motives good, but their actions wrong? Blah, 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 blah. Whatever. And then the stakes for that. Oh no, more people will think this make-believe person who didn't do anything is good. Doesn't matter. It's fine. But it is an 8-minute 43-second video. Let's see what depth he goes into.
Villains in fiction are meant to represent everything we're not supposed to be. They show us what happens when selfishness, cruelty, and power lust go unchecked. But lately, there's been this weird trend where audiences start siding with them. Instead of recognizing villains as cautionary tales, people twist their motives into something more relatable or admirable. Suddenly, the bad guy is misunderstood or had a point, even when their actions are downright horrifying.
Yeah. That's fine, though. So it's the same as the description so far, but that's fine. Had a point. Had a point isn't like, everything they did was great, and I want to do that in real life. I want to be just like that and follow that exact path. Kind of boring if they're not understandable at all. Like, if every villain is, hey, it's just a crazy guy who goes on a knife rampage for no reason. You can have that. It's not that interesting, right?
This trend of villain worship isn't just frustrating, it's disturbing. It suggests that people are missing a major point in many stories, which is to inspire us to be better. Heroes in fiction exist for a reason. They're meant to show us what to aspire to, even when the world is unfair or broken. When audiences start rooting for villains instead, they're not just misrepresenting the story, they're undermining...
Misrepresenting the story. If you think a story needs to do this, and it doesn't have that effect on people, is the story not, to some degree, to blame then? If I accept your premises, right? Can you not blame the story for not having that impact?
The entire message. Transformers 1 introduces us to the original form of Megatron.
I ain't watched it. I'm not a robot guy.
D16.
Well, I am, kind of. I'm more of a Titanfall guy, though.
Before he ultimately became the tyrannical leader of the Decepticons. The film shows his origins as a working-class guy who never wanted to get involved in any massive changes of the Cybertron system.
Excuse me, SEA? You're humanizing or even robotizing him. Damn, sounds like an empathetic figure.
Till he got roped into a grand conspiracy by his best friend Orion Pax, learning the truth of their leader, Sentinel Prime, giving away the energon he spent every day of his life slaving away to extract, to the Quintessons, Cybertron's ancient enemy. Instead of thinking what he could do to help rectify the issue for all of Cybertron, he thought exclusively of how he was personally wronged. The entire rest of the film from that point forward was a further descent into darkness after acquiring a taste for power, further being enabled by a group...
You're describing to me, assuming this is accurate, someone who may have a point, but goes to an extreme and goes about acting on this in the wrong way, perhaps.
group of freedom fighters who
I
have an
don't feel very
ideology
convinced.
based around the strength of one bot over another. This further fed into the blood-hungry attitudes of D16, until he had the chance to kill Sentinel. Many people seem to think he was right in executing Sentinel Prime, but they fail to understand that no one individual should have the unilateral authority to execute a surrendering and unarmed opponent. Those are the roots of fascism. Looking at Megatron as
Sorry, you think it's bad because it's the roots of fascism? That's the problem with it?
some noble revolutionary who acted rationally with consideration for others is horribly misguided, and shows how little people think of the impacts of the actions of others. Are there corrupt systems in place in the real world? Absolutely. But giving all power to one person to choose who lives or who dies arbitrarily in accordance to their own personal ego is a horrifying stance to have. What if we have the opposite? Sometimes the villain isn't.
I don't know enough about the context of this world. You've described him killing a surrendering opponent. In what capacity did he do that? It can be like an unjustified killing, and people can support it. And that can be a bit different from, you know, the state having power over life and death, and a dictatorial head getting to decide. Killing someone in the moment is a bit different, I don't know.
A person wanting to upend the system.
Also, checkmate. He didn't kill anyone, it's a robot.
But the system itself, like the RDA in Avatar. The RDA is the ultimate corporate villain, representing greed, exploitation, and the dehumanizing effects of capitalism. The RDA is the ultimate corporate villain, representing greed, exploitation, and the dehumanizing effects of capitalism. Their goal is simple: mine Pandora for unobtainium, no matter the cost. To them,
the creatures on that planet are not human, to begin with. Actually, killing blue cats is fine.
Na'vi are just obstacles, and Pandora's lush ecosystems are just another resource to be harvested. What's scary with the RDA is how realistic they are. In the real world, corporations and governments have justified similar actions in the name of progress or profit. That's why it's so unsettling when some viewers argue the RDA is practical, or they're just doing what needs to be done. This line of thinking echoes the same excuses used to justify deforestation, general environmental destruction, and genocides against different ethnic groups. But Avatar is...
Do we know in Avatar what the consequences of their failure to get this unobtainium and take advantage of it would be for mankind?
Subtle with who's in the right.
I don't remember Avatar very strongly at all. I watched it once right when it was released.
Jake Sully and the Na'vi represent the harmonious way of living that respects life and the planet. The RDA, on the other hand, is a cautionary tale of what happens when humanity loses its connection to nature. Rooting for them, or even sympathizing with their goals,
loses its connection to nature.
Completely misses the point. This is a universe with a canon deity that connects all living things on the planet. So killing the planet is killing an actual conscious entity. Many people even argue that humanity needs to survive by the time of the Way of Water, so the RDA must colonize Pandora, right? To that I'd like to ask, why did Earth get to that point in the first place?
My G just straight up not on the side of humans, okay?
Why should history repeat itself with a species that had zero say in the matter of what humanity does to their planet or Earth? One of the messages of this film is for us to get our shit together because our planet is pretty neat and we should preserve it instead of ruining it for future generations.
Okay, but if it's already been ruined. Alright.
Ever wonder why some characters are written without much depth? Because there isn't any depth to be had with topics like this. If this mess...
Actually don't think, just consume. Actually don't think, just consume. His problem with people's discourse and reimagining and probing and hypothesizing about depth behind this is that you shouldn't think about it. It's bad. They're just bad. Don't think about it. It's bad. Just don't think about it.
Messages lost to anybody with how abundantly clear the messages are. I have no words. But what happens when the villain is...
Maybe those are the messages. Why do I have to give a fuck what the message of the creator is? You can read more into something. You can even critique a film for its failure to present the ostensibly intended message and as part of that critique, show that it can be interpreted differently, and perhaps the villain could be shown as being justified. Perhaps by considering what information is missing from the film that could justify it if it were there, but is left blank and empty. Do you not find it fun and interesting? Like, the stakes are a fantasy. The stakes are a fantasy. You're not justifying a real world destruction and corruption. Right?
So you've been following the whole time. Paul Atreides from Dune.
That's why this discourse around made up stuff is good. It's like one of the good things about it.
Dune is pretty neat. He starts out as a heroic archetype, a young man thrust to a dangerous political conflict who rises to become the messianic leader of the Fremen. But what if the Messiah had other plans? What if destiny had darker ambitions? By the end of Dune 2, Paul is no longer the noble savior he appeared to be. He becomes consumed with the weight of his role as Quaditz Haderach, knowing that his
Quaditz Haderach? Isn't it Kwisatz Haderach? I'm not a Dunoid, so I'm probably wrong.
rise will lead to a galaxy-wide jihad in his name. Fans often argue that Paul is justified because he's trying to navigate a no-win situation. But that
Oh. Not just no win. In a sense, he's also a pawn, is he not? Quite strongly. His very existence is part of plotting, isn't it?
ignores the fact that his actions still led to immense suffering. He does.
Oh, he is absolutely, totally consequence-pilled. Nothing matters but the outcome. Nothing else. No consideration. Bad thing happened, therefore, irredeemable. Just bad.
Still make choices that hurt others. Paul's story is meant to critique.
Could he have made a choice that didn't hurt others? Do you not think that matters? Is that not worth it? Is that not at the very least fucking interesting to you, brother? Does that not, just for fun even, does not interest you?
The idea of messianic figures and the dangers of absolute power. It's a warning, not an endorsement. But many fans see Paul as a tragic hero, someone who's justified in his choices because the system around him is so broken. This kind of thinking shows how easily people can excuse harmful actions when they sympathize with the character committing them. He might be the protagonist, but he's no hero. Of course, as the resident Pirates of the Caribbean superfan, I have to talk about their
Note as well. Are any of the people saying that saying, this is good, you should try and follow his exact path? I don't think so. This is what I should strive to be, exactly. No. Recognizing the position he's in, and understanding that, hey, maybe he's doing the best he can. Kind of fucked either way, right? Is not the same as going, this is good, he's my role model. I would suggest that the example of Paul in itself is a point against your statement that heroes are meant to embody all that's good. Right?
tragic villain, Davy Jones. Jones is one of the most memorable antagonists of the series, thanks to his eerie design, haunting backstory, and iconic presence. But as compelling as he is, he's still a villain, a broken man who let his pain turn him into a monster. Jones' story began with heartbreak. He fell in love with the sea goddess Calypso and agreed to ferry the souls of the dead in exchange for her love. But when Calypso betrayed him, he abandoned his duty, carving out his own heart and locking it away. Over time, he became bitter and vengeful, twisting his pain into cruelty.
Damn, sounds understandable to a degree, does it not? Doesn't mean I think you should actively seek out warping yourself through bitterness into a cruel beast. But, like, it's that thing again. It's that thing again. All of this ultimately serves verisimilitude. Makes it feel more real. If you can't understand why the hell an antagonist or a villain or whatever is doing what they're doing, if you can't in any way empathize whatsoever, you're either limited to a totally alien, horror villain monster force, or you break the sense of reality. They got to be understandable and in some way empathetic if you want the world to feel real.
Enslaved his crew, terrorized the seas, and became a legend of terror. It's easy to feel sorry for Jones because his pain is so relatable. Who hasn't been hurt by someone they trusted? But that doesn't excuse the choices he makes.
Okay. Yes, sure.
Like heroes like Will Turner, who face similar hardships but choose to fight for love and freedom, Jones gives in to his worst impulses. His tragedy is self-inflicted. He's a man who had the chance to rise above his pain and choose to wallow in it instead. When fans argue that Jones was a victim or he was justified in his actions,
victim? You can argue he's a victim, why not? You can be a victim and do wrong. Why not?
they're missing the entire message of his story. Jones is a warning about what happened.
Also, you want to know what really justifies Davy Jones? Introducing me to that Knucklebones game or whatever. It's really cool.
Happens when you let pain and betrayal define you. He shows us that bitterness only leads to destruction for yourself and everyone around you. The Pirates of the Caribbean film show.
Liar's Dice. Liar's Dice. Yes, that's the one. Liar's Dice is fun as hell. Another counterpoint. If you cannot empathize or in some way see the villains or antagonist or nasty guys' motivations as understandable, justifiable, whatever, in what sense are they a cautionary tale? If they're just blanket, wrong, nothing to do with me, nothing at all, what value do they have in a didactic sense? Right? What are they warning me against? If it's something there's no risk of me falling into, what is the warning? What's the point?
It's a collection of characters who operate outside the law. Characters would be considered villains in society. But in reality, they're bound by their own loyalty to their own loved ones, which push them to be their best selves. Even someone as monstrous as Barbossa, someone who started the series as a terrifying undead captain with sexually predatory behavior, still came around to do the right thing in the end. Jones is
Does that overwrite? I've seen a bunch of the movies. I don't remember them very strongly because I watched them when they came out. Is he so consequence-pilled that he's like, he was good in the end, so whatever sexual predatory behavior, whatever, that's washed away. He's the good guy. This is weird as hell.
a cautionary tale, not a character worth your pity. If you think he's anywhere near right with his behavior, that speaks volumes on your own
Why can't I pity the fool?
views of the world. Finally, there's Senator Armstrong for Metal Gear Rising: Revengeance. The deranged politician who wants
No, he's just too based.
to create a world
You don't understand how based Senator Armstrong is.
where only the strong survive, tearing down institutions and systems in the process. His ideology is a brutal and exaggerated form of social Darwinism, blended with a distorted sense of American exceptionalism. Advocating for a world where only the strong
A distorted sense of American exceptionalism? Is this channel pro-American exceptionalism? And thinks Armstrong's conception of it is just wrong? What do you mean distorted sense? It just
thrive,
is.
rejecting traditional systems of government and morality in favor of raw power and individualism.
That's so fucking based.
Armstrong believes that
Sorry.
societal systems like democracy and law have become corrupt and ineffective, manipulated by the weak to control the strong. He envisions a world without nations or ideologies, where people fight for their own survival, supposedly ensuring freedom and strength through perpetual conflict.
Rules of nature.
Despite his claims of wanting to create a better world, his rhetoric exposes a callous disregard for human life, revealing that his vision is less about justice and more about imposing his violent philosophy on the world. Ryden even points out how Armstrong's views don't mean shit, considering he was born rich and powerful, never knew any struggles, while Ryden himself was once a child soldier, still grappling with the psychological damage of his experiences in adult.
That's a bit of a cool not quite a paradox. Is Ninja Man right on the back that on the back of having been raised in what Armstrong says will generate the best people and enable real freedom? Is Raiden right? Because he was raised in the crucible that Armstrong wants the world to be? If he is, what does that suggest about Armstrong's ideology?
Rise of villain worship.
Maybe Armstrong's a poser who is correct, not wrong. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. Your critique isn't fleshed out enough.
How people view the world. It's easy to be entertained by villains. They're confident, powerful, often reflect frustrations with broken systems. But glorifying them misses the bigger picture. Villains aren't meant to be role models. They're cautionary tales, showing us what happens when we give in to our worst instincts, and what can happen when we leave others unchecked with their greed. Heroes, on the other hand, show us how to rise above those instincts. Characters like Optimus Prime, Jake Sully, and Will Turner.
Like, that irony was the whole point of that ending, right? Was that not like the whole point?
Aren't perfect, but they'll fight for what's right even when it's hard. They remind us that being a hero isn't about being flawless, but it's about choosing to do the right thing, no matter how difficult it is. Heroes show us why they're worth fighting for. It's time we started paying attention to that message.
Do the right thing no matter how difficult it is. Is that mutually exclusive with Senator Armstrong's worldview? I don't think so.
That's it for today's video. If you liked it, give it a like and hit the subscribe button, join my Patreon page for early access to my videos, and join my Discord server. Thank you all for watching, and I hope you all have a great day.
Yeah, okay. Are you a Sea of Thieves YouTuber? This is a Sea of Thieves YouTuber. People are so used to villains being ontologically evil, they can't comprehend that they can have reasons yet still be wrong. No, that's exactly what people are understanding and leading into, though, isn't it? Is that not exactly what people are normally doing and what was being critiqued in this video? Am I out of my fucking gourd? What is happening? What makes a great hero? The follow-up. Alright.
So recently I made a video covering the strange phenomenon of villain worship in media. Basically the idea that audience...
Siffy, the man who made that video, like, clicked the heart on that comment as well. I don't know what's happening anymore. Guys, it's another schizo stream where I don't know what the fuck is happening around me and nothing makes sense. Alright? Alright?
To support some weird belief that a character that's so obviously a villain and make the claim that they're actually a hero. Of course, with this being the internet.
Hold up.
So recently I made a video covering the strange phenomenon of villain worship in media. Basically the idea that audience members will ignore context clues in a story to support some weird belief that a character that's so obviously a villain and make the claim that they're actually a hero. Of course.
You said more than this. You said a lot more than that in your video. You had problems with people even empathizing or describing as a victim someone who is a victim of certain things.
Of course, with this being the internet, everybody left very well argued comments that totally didn't strawman my points. But there were actually some people who brought up excellent points. This comment in particular made me consider what makes for a good protagonist, so thanks for the great comment.
Maybe people love villains so much today is because heroes are written so badly.
I hope you're watching this video and that you enjoy it. So today I'll be discussing different ways to make a great protagonist.
What makes a
now,
great
I need to lay some
protagonist?
ground rules before I begin. Firstly, I won't cover any subjective elements of writing. Subjective advice can only take you so far given its
Oh, this is going to be objective narrative critique only. Only objective truths about Pirates of the Caribbean.
Nature as a personal emotional response rather than anything provable. Secondly, I will be taking into account morally gray characters or anti-heroes since, despite the title of this video, this won't entirely focus on any narrow points of heroism per se. More so, just well-crafted protagonists with generally morally ideal traits. You can of course make a protagonist that's also morally bankrupt and tell a great story, but this is just one way to make a character. Thirdly, this video will operate on the assumption that everyone watching will look at the examples listed on a purely objective and structural level.
What do you mean? What does that mean? You'll only look at it on an objective level.
Does not matter if the characters listed are ones you personally resonate with. If I don't like a character, I can still concede if they're well crafted or not, and I expect the same of my audience. A good character isn't just a vibe, it's a structural and thematic masterpiece. Now, I've stated this.
How do you know? How do you know any of what you're critiquing there objectively is good, though? What makes it good? What is the root of the good there?
Before, but morality is technically subjective. What's right or wrong varies depending on the person, culture, or time period. But here's the kicker. In a story, the writers
Hold up. This has implications for his for his other video. Would his wait. If everyone unanimously agreed everything Davy Jones did was sick and our values aligned, or if everyone in the world aligned with Senator Armstrong, would he then concede that like Senator Armstrong's a hero and what he's saying is good? What are we saying here? What does this ultimately mean? I'm morphing into Jordan B. Peterson suddenly. What do we mean by good? What do we mean by subjective? What do we mean by objective? The Na'vi, in a sense, are more real than
moral framework. The movie sets the rules for what's good, bad, or somewhere in between. If the protagonist follows the moral bounds of a story, then I'll consider them as a hero for this breakdown. Not to say that there aren't characters that
you've just made it into a nightmare rat's nest.
Exist in total moral grayness, but it's much harder to concretely give advice on how to make. Now
you're talking about the hero being a hero because they align with the morality and values conveyed as existing in the context of the story. So Mega Rape Man would be a hero in the rape universe where rape is good. Like, what do we say? And then how does that work with the previous one? What am I listening to? What the fuck am I listening? Sevi, stop typing. What am I even listening to? What is happening?
Advice for that kind of character is to make sure they fit the story you're crafting, and they aren't arbitrarily defined in regards to characterization. Take Metal Gear Rising: Revengeance, for example. Raiden is a guy who's drowning in moral ambiguity. He's a child soldier turned cyborg mercenary. The world he lives in says violence is inevitable, and he buys into that. His arc works because the game's narrative clues, like the dialogue and nature of the gameplay, tell us that while killing isn't good, standing up to people who profit from suffering is. Raiden isn't perfect, but he aligns with the story's moral framework, with a somewhat ambiguous ending. I should make a video on this game someday. I'd say most protagonists need three main things: goals, obstacles, and agency. But before you can even get into that stuff, you need to ask yourself, what is your story? What does the character exist for? Now, of course, this isn't to say you can't have a story based around your character, but that's much easier to write since you could just create a fully fleshed out character and drop them into a wacky episodic series like a Plinko machine. Most writers want to have their character truly connected to their story, so that's what I'll be discussing. I was having dinner with a friend the other day, and we were discussing an idea he had for a film script, a horror film where his characters had to survive on an alien environment. He asked me for some feedback on the idea. He wanted a way to add more depth to the simple premise, and I suggested the idea that he have
Your friend said, hey man, I want to make a movie where humans are surviving against nasty aliens. You got any ideas for me? That's what I've got so far.
One character who caused a dangerous situation, and two other characters with vastly different perspectives on how to handle things. One who's more empathetic and open to helping the one who made the mistake, and another who is bitter with the guy who made the mistake for putting...
I'm not watching this. Next video. This video absolutely popped off. It's by, I don't know how to say his name. Kian Brose, whatever. 2.3 mil views, and the title is Suing Minecraft Because They Broke the Law and Pissed Me Off. That sounds very based. A lot of people like it. A lot of people have asked me to check this out. I am quite excited. And I have not spoiled it for myself whatsoever. My hopes, my dreams. I hope it is something where he is being incredibly petty, but is absolutely technically correct. My dream for this 15 minutes is for it to be something very petty, but absolutely correct. That would be nectar to me. Let's see what it is.
This is Minecraft, a block
Oh, he has the perfect look for it to be exactly what I want it to be.
game created in 2011 by Mojang, which I'm suing for breaking the
Oh god, let's go.
law and pissing me off. But to understand why I'm doing this, we need to go back to December of 2022. You see,
Oh,
Minecraft
I love timelines. I love timelines so much. Yes, let's go.
is a game where anyone can add anything, even if it wasn't part of the original game. And what I wanted to do was recreate an old game I used to play in 2013 called MC War that unfortunately shut down. And after months of
Mick War. Ronald has had Mick fucking enough. Let's start. Mick War. Oh man, I can't. This guy's vibes are immaculate. Look at those jorts. Perfectly framed just to make it clear that he is wearing them. He wants you to know he's wearing jean shorts and not regular jeans.
development and growing the community that was eager to play the game on launch, we finally set the release date to the 2nd of June of 2023.
Gotcha.
And this is where everything went wrong. Because only one day after posting the release date, a tweet was posted stating that Mojang Enforcement, basically the guys that enforce the terms of service, threatened to take down a server called GTM because a new directive from Mojang leadership had determined that guns and weapons are considered non-compliant features under the adult content requirement for commercial usage servers, and that they now have to be completely removed because they're against the brand guidelines, usage guidelines, and end-user license.
Oh, this stuff sucks. I hate this. You know what this suddenly brings to mind? Do you remember? I don't know if it still exists. There was that PvPvE third-person shooter battle royale called, I believe, Scavengers, where a term of signing up and making an account to play the game, I believe, was that you would agree to not make fan art that had certain themes or elements. That annoyed the hell out of me. This is, to me, somewhat reminiscent of that.
Agreement. So basically, after months of development and thousands of dollars spent on marketing, yes, this thing costs $1,000, everything was completely wasted because it's now prohibited. So as you can imagine, all servers that contained guns basically entered panic mode because we were all about to be annihilated by Mojang. A group with all of these owners was created to discuss and potentially negotiate, asking very valid questions such as, how come servers that have had
They're gonna gun emojify it. Squirt guns. To dodge Mojang's wrath. Is it Mojang or Mojang? I always thought it was Mojang.
firearms
Yeah, screw Mojang. Screw Mojang. This is perfection. Screw them. Screw them. If you have grounds, which I imagine he's going to lay out, absolutely. Based.
for well over a decade so far have never had any issues but are suddenly prohibited. Why is it okay for Mojang's own marketplace, where they get a cut of every sale, to have guns when we don't get to have them? And what—
Ooh. Pettiness and the hypocrites. Ooh, they're not even really anti-guns in their stuff. Not even really anti-guns in this stuff. It's not even a real value they have. Oh, baby! They're just screwing people over for no good reason. Oh!
what exactly do they mean by guns and weapons and suitable for children? Because it's totally not like there are thousands of games that literally have guns and weapons in them that are made for children. And it's totally not like Minecraft itself has explosive crossbows, which are a firearm in most jurisdictions, by the way. Guns, bombs,
The technicalities being brought up.
swords, poison, incineration, slavery, you get the idea. To which Mojang, after conveniently ignoring half these points, replied that
This guy absolutely, unequivocally rules.
Recent directive from Mojang leadership wasn't for guns and weapons, but was purely for guns and firearms. Isn't that change convenient? But hey, what would I know? It's not like Mojang hides information from the public for illicit reasons, right? This is called foreshadowing. So since Mojang didn't
No,
exactly...
he's not cool anymore. That's cringe. Don't do that. Don't do... This is called... Nope. You lost your points.
explain what qualified as a real-life weapon, we went ahead and asked, is this a weapon? What about this? Which they, again, completely ignored. And after demanding more answers, they eventually said on...
They're gonna mess with you. They're gonna tell you what you can do with your mods and your servers. And they're not gonna let you know whether they're gonna bring the hammer down on you or not. Screw them.
June 13th that the key decision makers are on holiday. So I guess we'll just have to wait until these key decision makers stop being on vacation. But hey, it's not like it's gonna take months. 6 months is how long it took them to reply. And the thing about having your entire project's existence be based off of the decision of a CEO that is on vacation is that you can't really justify investing into development or marketing when it could all go to shit if they don't change their minds. We were essentially told that even though the decision is not final, guns are okay for now, which is a different way of saying, but we will be changing our minds later. We just can't afford any more
And watch out. Watch out.
bad press right now because this entire thing has hit the news and got millions of people to be mad at us for being assholes. And while that could have been the end of it, while these assholes spent half a year replying, I was investigating whether this entire fiasco could have been illegal. And oh boy, this entire fiasco started because a new directive reinterpreted adult content in the end user license agreement, in other words, EULA, to include guns and firearms and hence prohibit them. These clauses that are written in the EULA are more commonly known as a terms of service. This is what's called a click wrap agreement. It's the thing that forces you to check it before signing up for a service. It's essentially a set of rules that you have to follow when using the service, but the thing you have to understand is that this is a type of legally binding agreement or otherwise contract. And unlike some third world countries like the United States, where companies can get away with writing
Oof. Screw you, buddy, okay?
anything into the contract, like you can't sue us because we said so. Mojang is in Sweden, and Sweden is in Europe. And in Europe, we are supposed to have competent governments that have things like consumer protection law.
No, they're in Sweden, so if they eat enough cum, they can modify the contract as much as they want. You missed that technicality.
And contract law. Note how I said supposed to. This is important for later. In Mojang's first email, they say that under the new directive, guns and
I really hope this guy's legal commentary is correct, because I'm not a lawyer and I cannot check it. Or at least I have no faith in my ability to check it effectively, because it requires a certain level of familiarity to even understand what I'm looking into.
Firearms are not compliant. They follow it up saying that these activities are specifically prohibited by the Mojang brand guidelines, guidelines that literally do not exist, but which they cite
Ooh.
multiple times anyways, the commercial guidelines and the EULA. Now let's go ahead and look at the actual contract for these specific prohibitions. And oh, would you look at that? It hasn't been updated at all since April of 2020, which is over 3 years ago. And these specific prohibitions that they mentioned are nowhere to be found. It's almost as if they pulled it out of their ass. Remember how I mentioned that it's not like Mojang hides information from the public for illicit reasons, right? Well, it turns out that this new directive that prohibits guns, which Mojang enforces as if it was part of the EULA, isn't actually on the EULA. So this information is hidden, only known to Mojang, and not written anywhere. And since it can't be found anywhere and is literally pulled out of their ass, they can change it as many times as they want. Which they have. 3 times. Now, you might be asking what the problem is, since at the end they did tell us what we need to do to comply. And you see, Sweden and Europe, which Sweden is a part of, have these things called consumer protection laws and contract law that dictates how a contract is allowed to be written. And by looking just a little bit in Europe's website, you can see that contracts must be fair, transparent, and cannot have unfair terms. Like, for example, a get-out clause such as all permissions and consents may be revoked at any time if we think that it is appropriate to do so, or we don't.
Ooh, that is specifically prohibited. Okay.
Don't like what you are doing. If that doesn't sound like a get-out clause, hidden terms, one-sided changes to a contract, one-sided changes to a product or service,
As a layperson, have to agree. Sounds cooked on Mojang's part.
one-sided interpretation of the contract. Doesn't that sound familiar? And after contacting the European Union's legal advisors, I was told that misleading emissions, basically hiding information, is a form of
He got in touch with experts.
unfair commercial practice where Mojang fails to give information to the consumer, and that all relevant information needs to be present, and that it's also misleading emission if Mojang provides the consumer with information but does so in an unclear, unintelligible, or ambiguous, loosely worded way. It's
Or untimely. You've got them on the untimely as well.
almost as if they're not allowed to have hidden clauses, where I am then encouraged to sue before the home court, because all the time and resources I put into my project have essentially gone to shit. So now that we've covered...
And not just that, but gone to shit because of this ridiculous stuff that they're not allowed to do. I would say, even without all the legal stuff, he's morally in the right. You should be able to run servers where you modify games and do whatever the hell you want with them. I think you should just be allowed to do that. But it looks like legally he's in the right too. As a layperson.
that Mojang hiding shit from the public in a contract is illegal under European consumer protection laws, on top of things like the contra pro forentum doctrine, which basically says that if something is loosely worded, I'm the one that gets to choose how to interpret it. But Kian, why go through all this trouble? This is probably just a mistake by Mojang, a one-off thing. It's not like Mojang does a ton more illegal shit, right?
Cringe,
When all of
don't
this
do that.
started, I never wanted this to be a lawsuit. I simply expected Mojang to not be assholes and be reasonable. And the way I tried to do this was by collecting all of this information and sending it to media outlets and news sources, knowing that it would create a ton of backlash that Mojang simply couldn't ignore.
Mojang is set to release
According to their new guidelines,
Mojang no longer being the
According to their new guidelines.
Even though the information got millions of views, Mojang just played the good old do nothing and the problem will just go away. But now I am here, you pieces of shit. But then, while we were waiting 6 months for the key figures to stop being on vacation, on the 2nd of August 2023, Mojang did the worst thing they've ever done. They updated the EULA that had been unchanged since 2020 and tried to hide the fact that they had changed it by not telling anyone about it and releasing it at the same time as a major game update.
Snapshot content, really cool. EULA changes, very important. Which one gets announced on Twitter? The snapshot. Is one being used to mask the other?
Putting all of their efforts into marketing the game update so people wouldn't notice the EULA update. They never notified anybody about it. Now, under consumer protection laws, when a company changes its terms of service, it is required to notify its users about said changes before they take effect. Which is the reason...
Okay. Circleox says, I don't think consumer protections apply to you when you are taking their product and altering it. I'm not a lawyer. What I'm inferring from what he's saying is that the EULA includes some sort of provision regarding what you can do with it. Probably in part because they benefit greatly from people doing stuff with it and want them to do it. But, again, I'm not a lawyer. I haven't looked into it. The most I can say is, I think going after them for this is based, and I'd love to see what happens.
You get all of these annoying emails that say, hey, we've changed our terms of service. Mojang tried covering it up. But not only did Mojang not notify anybody of these changes on top of covering it up, but they also added that
These guidelines may change as time goes by. We reserve the right to change our minds at any time. So don't count on these guidelines always being here. It is up to you to check back to see if these guidelines have changed.
And you bet I wasn't gonna let them get away with hiding that. After analyzing the contract and putting all the shitty parts together, I sent the information forward to basically everyone. And oh boy.
Mojang updated its EULA.
Minecraft has gone full 1980.
Would love for you to get in touch with whoever the fucking EU rep you did before. Get in touch with them again about this. Please tell us.
We have been ignored
breaking
at
laws
every single
in various
turn
Released on the
countries.
same
to
day.
enforce it however they want.
Now, to say that this blew up
He is using consumer protection for his business. I would guess that's probably an issue. However, while that's his motivation and like why he's doing this, if he's right about the consumer protection issues and all of this is wrong and illegal, regardless of the fact that the motivation is him having wasted money and so on and so forth, if they've done something wrong still, you can still go after them as a consumer. who's been exposed to these illegal practices, if they are illegal.
In their face would be a little bit of an understatement. It got so bad that
A handful of creators were reached
But on top of that, I have not read the EULA.
out to by Mojang and given a heads up. Attached were answers and guidance
You're right! Toy Soldier Nerio says Mojang used their EULA to prohibit his business as well. Yeah, again, I'm not a lawyer, so I will try to refrain from talking about this in legal terms. In personal and moral terms, I say fuck Mojang.
to clear up the confusion.
That's right. Select figures were grouped up by Mojang and given information that wasn't publicly available to try and calm it down a bit. Information that should be present in the contract by law. And just when you thought it couldn't get any worse, they forced every single one of these members to sign a non-disclosure agreement that forbids them from giving out any information that they were told for a contract that should be publicly available.
Excuse
I bet
me?
they didn't think I'd find out, but I know lots of things.
Lots of things.
So now that
What?
we've covered that they hide changes from the contract, force select people to sign non-disclosure agreements for changes that should be publicly available on the contract, refuse to notify about these changes and try to cover it up, it can't possibly get any worse, right? In the end-user license agreement, they specifically state
What the hell are they playing at?
twice that any form of gambling, violence, terrorism, or other unsafe and mature content is strictly forbidden. Which totally makes sense, but what if I told you that the gambling part was a lie? You see, in Minecraft, when you look at any of the biggest servers, you'll quickly notice a recurring pattern in their shops. They have something called crates and crate keys. These keys are used to play lotteries inside of the game that have a chance to give you extremely overpowered items or more money than anyone else. Almost like a casino with extremely similar tactics that are made to get you addicted and turn.
Siffy, as a Minecraftoid, are these servers that you can access, you know, via an interface in the official Microsoft client? I go with like the stripped down versions of Minecraft. I stay away from all that shit.
Hiroshima fed the streamer
Hiroshima,
$2 Canadian
thank you.
Superberry.
No servers
Check
like
the
that.
Discord
Okay,
YouTube
good.
React channel, Tim.
Discord React channel. Ooh. Blop. New update. New update to it. I will look at that after this. Thank you.
A profit. Theoretically speaking, under Mojang's own rules, this should be completely forbidden as it's clearly gambling even by Sweden's own definitions of gambling. But it turns out that there's a separate list of hidden terms, just like in the gun case, that allows gambling to take place, which has led to thousands of children getting gambling addictions. I spoke to them.
I was around 8 years old when I first
started
got
gambling.
Okay, this is cringe. This part's cringe. Fundamentally, with the issues of them forbidding gambling and then having secret terms that enable it and blah 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 blah. Cool, get them, get their ass. Here are the child victims of Minecraft loot boxes, though. Nah, shut up, cut this part out.
Gambling on Minecraft servers at 14.
It's bad on principle. Fuck this.
The overpowered armor. It was about feeling cool and getting strong. It gave me a chance to win an item that you just couldn't when I'd win, everybody gave me attention. It was like this rush took over every time I opened a crate. I felt on top of the world winning those. The thrill faded fast and I just wanted it to happen again. Hold on me like a habit I just couldn't break. They always left me wanting more. It just went downhill from there. I got my dad's credit card and spent it on money I'd had.
Suffer! Suffer! These children deserve to suffer.
His credit card to buy a crate. I lost everything. Thinking back, I hated it. Left me feeling sad and couldn't break the cycle. Plunged me into a deep depression.
It's terrible. And they do this as a Swedish company, where our own government and gambling institutions have some of the strictest laws in the world related to gambling that completely bar anyone below 18 years old from playing, even going as far as to requiring bank ID authentication to play a scratch-off ticket. And Mojang just allows it. So now that I've shown you some of the illegal shit that Mojang has done, and
not sure about that point. I agree that the reason the problems with gambling exist in, you know, paid loot boxes. And that's a problem to expose children to. Presenting like, oh, even for scratch cards they have to do it. Put scratch cards on a hierarchy where they're like more mild than a loot box. I think loot boxes shouldn't be in children's games. Children shouldn't be paying for them and doing this. But I'd put them on a hierarchy below scratch cards rather than above scratch cards, whatever.
Trust me, there's so much more, like how they're currently forcing developers onto their own marketplace so they can charge extremely exorbitant fees for no reason while blocking off any kind of competition. As if that doesn't sound like some company that has...
Like, I could easily imagine legislation that requires ID for scratch cards but not for video game loot boxes, even though children shouldn't be doing that stuff. Morally. Correctly. You get what I'm saying?
Recently been hit by billions in fines from Europe. It's time to move on to the lawsuit. Since
Let's
Mojang
go.
has shown that they really don't give a shit about the law, a lawsuit is really the only way to get them to realize that your actions have consequences. How do you actually sue a billion-dollar corporation owned by an even bigger trillion-dollar corporation? It's quite easy, actually. All you need to do is hire a lawyers are extremely expensive. So when you're legally broke to the point of having to live in an underground basement filled with radioactive gas, that's unfortunately not a joke, how are you supposed to finance justice? Remember when I said, here in Europe, we are supposed to have competent governments? This is where that becomes important. When someone in the European Union has rights guaranteed by the Charter of Human Rights, like for example Article 38, consumer protection, if that person does not have enough money to seek out justice, according to Article 47, you should have the right to an effective remedy before a tribunal and a fair and public hearing where everyone shall have the possibility of being advised, defended, and represented. In other words, even if you're broke, according to the Charter of Human Rights, you are entitled to seek out justice. Every country in Europe needs to comply with this charter to be part of the European Union. And Sweden's way of doing this is through...
So, hang on. I'm going to pick up on a comment I just read. Hold on. So Danny Koyerleber says, children do not have the impulse control to handle loot boxes, simple as. I'd go further. I'd say it's irrelevant whether they do or not. They should not be exposed to a situation where such willpower and self-control is required to avoid negative consequences. They shouldn't be exposed to that risk to begin with.
Rättshjälpsmyndigheten, the legal aid institution, which according to their own website provides remuneration of legal aid for up to 100 hours of work unless otherwise determined by the court. And after contacting hundreds of lawyers, I was told information that is hidden from the institution's website.
Like, even if we lived in a hypothetical world where when you did it, every child could control themselves, I think they still shouldn't be exposed to it.
The first one is that when a lawyer has to work with a client that has legal aid, they are forced to reduce their hourly rates to a rättshjälpstaxa, which is often less than 40% of what they usually charge an hour. This basically means that the overwhelming majority of lawyers I contacted simply refused to take the case, and that the ones that were willing to do so were extremely inexperienced. And that's not exactly a fair and effective remedy, is it? And the second biggest problem is that this case is so complex that it would way overshoot the 100 hours that were mentioned on the website. But wait a minute, doesn't it also say unless otherwise determined by a court? It turns out that after talking to employees that work at the legal aid institution, on top of them having a ton of spelling mistakes and writing like cavemen, like seriously, how do you write like this and are employed at the government? They admitted that the 100-hour limit is basically fixed and anything beyond that is just a few hours and it's just to end the case. Meaning that in other words, I have to either choose between getting 100 hours of help and then going bankrupt or represent myself alone in court against a billion-dollar corporation. Not exactly fair, is it? So at this point, the government institution that was supposed to uphold Article 47 had failed to do so. I then went to these two institutions that are supposed to oversee that other government institutions do their job properly. But unfortunately, they said, we don't care, it's not important enough. I wish I was joking. I really do. Next up, we have Sweden's Consumer Protection Agency.
What do they normally deal with? To be fair, I'd like to see examples of what is more important. I imagine it's going to be something significantly heftier,
Agency, Konsumentverket, which is supposed to represent you if you are unable to do so yourself and the case is determined to be of importance enough to consumers. To which they replied that representation in this case cannot be expected to lead to an outcome that is of importance to law enforcement. In other words, they don't give a shit. Next up, we have the Swedish National Board of Consumer Complaints, ARN, that said that apparently when I entered this agreement with Mojang when I was 12 years old, I did not do so acting as a consumer, meaning that I must have been a really young 12-year-old corporate entity to enter this contract with Mojang at 12 years old. Yeah. Every single government institution in Sweden that was supposed to uphold justice has failed to do so. And Article 47 of the Charter of Human Rights has been violated by the entire country of Sweden. Mojang will keep getting away with this because they know full well that nobody that is affected by their decisions has the means to sue them in court. I'm sorry. I really tried. this didn't end how I thought it would end. And while I really want to give up, because like at this point, I've tried everything, there's just nothing more that I can do, my friends convinced me to try one last thing. Because this isn't about me anymore.
No, I think going after them for bullshit is based, even if I don't have a legal understanding enough to judge the likelihood of any kind of success or the details. I do have to say, if you're gonna crowdfund, fuck you. You better not.
It's about all of us, all of you. If Mojang gets away with this, they're setting the precedent and they can do whatever they want, and we have no rights whatsoever. So I'm opening a crowdfunding campaign for legal fees so that maybe, just maybe, we're able to hold Mojang accountable for everything they've done as a community, because if we don't fight, nobody will. $1,220,000 Swedish kroner. It's like $10, right? Right. That's about £87,500. There's about £87,500, and there is an update from 20 hours ago by a channel called IBX Toycat. I don't know who he is, but I've been told that this will inform me more. About the lawsuit. Why is WPC here? Refresh. I did it. I beat the ads.
People hate to hear this, but being against the giant corporation doesn't automatically make you correct. Kian Bros recently posted a YouTube video in which he detailed his interactions with Mojang and their responses and actions back towards him, more or less.
I think he's morally right. I have no idea if he's right about the idea that he'd have a solid legal case that should be successful against them.
Threats towards him and other gun server owners, something which he didn't like, and so he's now suing Mojang. Honestly, good for him. I'm glad he's doing it, but I do have some issues with the way he presented his case.
And unlike some third world countries like the United States, meaning that I must have been a really young 12-year-old corporate entity, how they're currently forcing developers onto their own marketplace so they can charge extremely exorbitant fees for no reason.
Okay, actually, this last one is wrong on so many levels. There is no marketplace for Java for them to be able to force players or modders to use. Also, I wish they took a 30% fee. Also, the Bedrock marketplace literally has a capped number of signups, and so they constantly will not take enough people. And so the problem is too few people are able to sign up to the marketplace. Not that they're forcing everyone onto it somehow. But anyway, the point that is raised in this video is a very good one. The underlying point is that Mojang has treated him and his server extremely poorly, and I don't think that's a good thing to do for the modders and server owners that are sort of the backbone of the Minecraft community. And so in today's video, I wanted to detail the actual details behind the situation, and I know that there's going to be some unpopularity behind that, but I feel like the truth is much more important than the easy hate story, and that is why I'm sharing it today, starting with the beginning.
Alright.
So here's the deal. Kian spent months creating a Minecraft server, turning Minecraft into a first-person shooter game. He spent a lot of money on this and then announced a release date.
And this is where everything went wrong.
Mojang enforcement started sending notices to servers that they were breaching the rules. Indeed, that they had activities that were specifically prohibited by the Mojang brand guidelines, commercial guidelines, and EULA. Kian obviously had some big questions about this, and so they gave a clarification that the compliance issue was with purely guns and firearms and not weapons, as there are already weapons.
Let me hear something again for 1 second.
Mojang a lot of money on this and then announced a release date.
And this is where everything went wrong.
Mojang enforcement started sending notices to servers that they were breaching the rules. Indeed, that they had activities that were specifically prohibited by the Mojang brand guidelines, commercial guidelines, and EULA. Kian obviously had some big questions about this.
Do we know what the consequences of ignoring that would be? Will Mojang straight up legally come after you? I don't think that was ever gone into.
And so they gave a clarification that the compliance issue was with purely guns and firearms and not weapons, as there are already weapons in the game such as the bow and the sword. We do not allow the use of real-life guns and firearms within the game, as that is considered adult content, and this is a very concerning response. So we had some big questions about how we could become compliant, but their response was that a couple of key decision makers are on holiday and they'll follow up once the right people had the chance to look at different server scenarios and then provide better guidelines. But
6 months is how long it took them to reply.
This sounds like beyond poor form from Mojang. You should not take that long to answer some questions, especially when you're the one wielding the threats. And to be fair, they did respond to another server owner, Grand Theft Minecraft, saying this, that they could temporarily use guns and semi-realistic weapons on third-party servers and all of these other little clarifications, but they said the following is not final, and therefore, as Kian puts it, it's legal for now. This is not a reassuring position to be in if you're a server owner trying to build a business on something that Mojang have said, yeah, we might just change our mind on that and shut you down on later. And so this is where he begins his legal case, and he concludes after looking into it that since the EULA hasn't changed during this entire process, that they can't change the rules on him now or later, and so he tells everyone that this is true, making sure he gets as much coverage as possible. If you remember the big EULA scandal, this is where that came from, and so Minecraft does respond with some guideline changes that are pretty generally unpopular. You can always tell when that's going to be true because they label the article as being written by Minecraft staff, but yeah, in either case, despite publishing this big set of changes and reiterating what their EULA is, there does remain a gap between the agreement and the enforcement, as Kian brings up.
In the end-user license agreement, they specifically state twice that any form of gambling, violence, terrorism, or other unsafe and mature content is strictly forbidden. Which totally makes sense, but what if I told you that the gambling part was a lie? You see, in Minecraft, when you look at any of the biggest servers, you'll quickly notice a recurring pattern in their shops. They have something called crates and crate keys. These keys are used to play lotteries inside of the game that have a chance to give you extremely overpowered items or
Is this guy gonna pick at that?
more money than anyone else.
This is true, and I'm actually surprised it is, given how unpopular loot boxes are. It feels very unfair that they are just not enforcing this, but it's very much the situation they find themselves in with the gun thing too. They are in a situation where Minecraft has a EULA that they're threatening to
forbids the guns, and for now they're just like, yeah, we're not gonna enforce it, whatever. Gives ass cover vibes, right? Gives the vibes that Mojang's like, we're not doing anything, but it's against the rules, so should there come any controversy regarding us allowing this, we can suddenly crack down and say, it was never allowed. We're not connected to this.
wield but currently are not. And so because this doesn't result in any changes to the wording of the EULA for them to actually fix the issue that he's worried about, he tries to start a lawsuit and then concludes it costs too much, tries to get the Swedish legal system to assign him a lawyer as he is due under his EU legal rights, but they say they can only promise 100 hours of legal time, so he contacts the government body that regulates government bodies, and they say, you have reported the Legal Aid Institution. What has emerged does not give us a reason to go through with the report. Reports are an important source of information on the JO's job.
The
Even
jerk
if your
off's
report is
job.
ignored, the information you provided could be useful for JO. The case is closed.
Now, when all of this started, I never wanted this to be a lawsuit. I simply expected Mojang to not be assholes and be reasonable. And the way I tried to do this was by collecting all of this information and sending it to media outlets and news sources, knowing that it would create a ton of backlash that Mojang simply couldn't ignore.
And so now that all of that has failed, he is looking to the public to crowdfund his lawsuit. The video
he's done it.
thankfully blew up, and he actually raised around $100,000 US, and for most people, this is where the story ends. Maybe in a few months there'll be an update. And
Thank you. That is where I'm at, but apparently my man has more info.
Mojang will change their EULA or start enforcing it one way or the other. However, this is something that I figured I would have to jump in on because this is where the but actually comes in. At this point, you might be saying, surely Mojang have to respond to this, surely they have to update their EULA, and surely they have to back down from what sounds like illegal processes. However, the entire story you've heard so far has been from Kian, and so is one side of the tale. And so what is the other side? Well, I tried to do as much research as I could outside of the one person telling me, and let me tell you that first of all, this sounds like what happened is he launched a server, and then Mojang came after him and threatened him till he had to shut it down, but actually, it seems the server did in fact launch last June on its intended release date, and then it relaunched this September with this great looking trailer. Honestly, it looks very fun, but in both cases there were lots of complaints, as far as I could see, that the server was always dead and there just weren't enough players. Based on
Oh, this is not a good look. Yeah. this is not a good look. Kian, you made it sound like your fears screwed you over. And like you weren't doing it. But I guess he never technically said he wasn't doing it, did he?
The timeline of when the server was up, we can assume that what shut it down in the end, because it currently isn't active, is not the Mojang EULA enforcement team coming after him, but instead the lack of a player base. And this really sucks. I empathize with anyone who puts loads of time and money into a project that they know is good and that looks incredible, but which doesn't go well. But you can't say this is Mojang shutting him down. And so if there was to be a lawsuit, generally lawsuits are about recovering damages dealt by another party, or indeed about criminal negligence in some cases. But which of those is he trying to...
If this is accurate, and there isn't some detail we're missing, even in this video, Kian never laid out that Mojang killed it, did he? He merely said they warned him, and said to someone else that they'd allow these sorts of servers to go. Did he ever state that they did anything to stop him? If they didn't, yeah, it didn't feel good. Ooh. So, Mojang suck, but I would be very, very, very cautious about giving this Kian guy money. Very, very careful.
Proof here, because you can't argue there's a lot of damage done, besides perhaps in the harassment of Mojang trying to enforce brand...
Too late though, so I'll just enjoy whatever comes out of this. I'll just enjoy the ride. You know what? It's fine. I mean, none of this is skin off my dick. I don't play Minecraft.
Guidelines that don't exist?
Specifically prohibited by the Mojang brand guidelines that literally do not exist, but which they cite multiple times anyway.
This was something that appalled me when I first watched the video. For Mojang to use non-existent, or at least non-searchable brand guidelines and use them to enforce on creators is terrible. And if that's the impression you got too, that's a valid one. However, all of these points that he raises are actually things that you can find in the usage guidelines, something that comes up when you actually Google brand guidelines. And in fact, when Minecraft talk about changing this, as they did last year, they call it the brand and usage guidelines and just give you a link to this page. The non-existent brand guidelines is just him taking an issue with what they sometimes call it versus what the official title for the page is, and that is not a valid legal defense, and it's close to lying to the viewer at best. He is conflating the idea, a very valid one, that Mojang has the ability to enforce certain terms in different ways and they change what they consider to enforce. He's conflating that idea with the very legal agreement which underpins it, which has been the same the entire time. In fact, he must know this because he references that, yeah, they're not enforcing one of the terms in this, a valid point when he talks about gambling, Minecraft loot boxes not being very popular. I don't know why they don't do that, but he references this same exact point here, and similarly, he also talks about...
Why is it okay for Mojang's own marketplace, where they get a cut of every sale, to have guns when we don't get to have them?
Even though, for some reason, you can have blasters and a Nerf gun if you really want one. I do agree with Kian that this is ridiculous, because as he points out...
Because it's totally not like there are thousands of games that literally have guns and weapons in them that are made for children.
But despite...
That is like an argument why they're silly. I don't think that has any bearing on whether it's...
The fact that I would love Mojang to change their stance, because, let's be honest, the distinction right now is dumb, and the line that Mojang draws is not very clever. They have effectively given us a safe harbor. A safe harbor is a guarantee that something is okay, and right now they have clearly laid out the guidelines that even though they're not sure what they think about guns and firearms, they're very sure they think about blasters, and that's that they're a-okay. If you are a server owner, or you're making a map or a world or an add-on or anything else, all you've got to do is label your guns blasters and say they don't shoot bullets, they shoot blaster pellets or Nerf pellets or anything else. You can keep literally everything else the same and be...
This is like, we live in the world of logic and everything is gonna play by those rules. No, Mojang could still arbitrarily come after you, certainly. And then what are you gonna do about it?
100% okay, with the current solution being even easier, because as Mojang have clarified, right now you don't even need to worry about that. Right now the decision isn't final if they're going to enforce on guns in the future, and right now you're allowed to just keep doing what you're doing, so I don't understand what the big problem is. It sounds like Mojang are trying to enforce a EULA very unfairly, and I definitely agree Mojang enforcement are...
He's The problem for Kian is he's scared about further dumping resources into his mod and servers. When, if he keeps going how he's going, and they decide, yeah, actually, we're going to screw you, surprise, he's fucked. That's my understanding.
Very heavy-handed in some cases, but in this case, it looks like they mostly backed down. Even wilder, in my opinion, and something we don't give enough credit for, is that when they changed their EULA and their usage guidelines last year, there was a bit of a storm about it because they didn't go far enough for some people, but they actually did give more rights to players. Forever, they've had this rule that, yeah, when you have a Minecraft Java mod, if you create it, you own it. However, if you try to sell it, or if you try to charge people to access your server with it, that's not okay. They actually clarified that it's totally fine to do so via Patreon and other services. They added in a section that means you can make handcrafted Minecraft goods, and as long as you don't make more than 20, you're allowed to just use the Minecraft IP that way. That is incredible. No other company would do that. They would just turn a blind eye, and that's why we've seen so many other games which hold all of the rights, so many more than Minecraft, shut down fan projects of basically everything, from Nintendo to Call of Duty, and it means that there is ultimately a much more friendly policy in place at Mojang, and I think that this video makes some very good points, those being the fact that Mojang's policy on guns versus blasters is ridiculous, to put it lightly. They need to make something that is much more consistent, but also I think...
Well, their policy regarding what you're doing elsewhere with your modifications of the game, when they're generally... When they allow you, they say, like, you can modify your shit, do your own shit with your servers. By the way, we're still going to have a hand in it and decide exactly what you're allowed to do and the exact details of that. Fuck off. Just fuck off. On a fundamental, personal, human level, fuck off.
It's true that spending 6 months responding to people about their concerns with your game is bad support anywhere, but especially when it comes to you legally enforcing things on them. And then finally, the legal point of substance on which this entire case does seem to rely, which is you cannot have a get out clause in the European Union. That is to say, you can't have terms which allow you to get out of providing a service just because it doesn't suit you, but which still binds the consumer. This is a good regulation and is basically saying you can't have one-sided contracts, but the Minecraft usage guidelines say that all permissions are consent and are given by us at our discretion and may be revoked at any time if we think that it's appropriate to do so. This is the main point in the video, and indeed, this is one that is legally easily defensible, but even then, I think only if you are proving that they have used it against you, right? If there is an illegal part to any contract, then generally just that part of the contract is unenforceable. But the thing that I think is kind of crazy here is when he talks about the goals for the end of the fundraiser. So the fundraiser has raised another $10,000.
I have not read the fundraiser yet. If he doesn't read it,
since I started
I'll
this video,
go read it.
And he states that his goal with this legal suit is that Mojang should be forced to pay out a massive settlement to each and every one of their users by digital contracts.
Oh, what? Okay, yeah, we're gonna read his fundraiser now. Okay, so we got about $100,000 for his lawsuit. Let's read the page. I didn't read the page. I should have read the page. Since April 2023, I've been investigating Mojang, the Swedish company behind the massively popular game Minecraft, for unlawful activities after my personal project was attacked by one of their unlawful contractual enforcements. Throughout the video attached to this fundraiser, I exposed several severe violations of European consumer protection laws. I don't know. Can't really judge it too well. And contract law that indicate that Mojang has complete contempt for the law. Complete contempt for the law and does whatever it pleases. Most likely with bad influence from Microsoft. Without... What are you doing? What are you doing? What is this? Without adequate oversight and has evaded all consequences for their illegal actions due to the prohibitive costs of a completely broken legal system. The legal system's completely broken. Please give me money to engage with this legal system. People gave this guy $100,000. Oh no. Oh no. And he started so based. He could have been based, but he's not based. He's cringe. During my search for justice, I was met with the harsh reality that Sweden does not comply with the European Charter of Fundamental Rights. Oh. The failure of several government institutions rendered it impossible to obtain redress for the violation of my rights as a consumer under European consumer protection laws, and unfortunately Sweden does not have contingency lawyers that work for free in the exchange of a cut from the resulting settlement. During the investigation process, throughout which I sought damages for my losses, You didn't tell us that. During the investigation process throughout which I sought damages for my losses. Sorry, did you consistently ask Mojang for money? Did you tell us that? Is this dodgy English, or is he telling us he asked them to make him whole? The more I discovered, the more I realized that this was neither a new occurrence nor a mistake on Mojang's part. There's been a systemic abuse of unlawful contract formulations, which has led to thousands of children, most likely in the hundreds of thousands, suffering permanent gambling addictions. What are you doing? What are you doing? What are you doing? What are you doing? Large projects completely shutting down and losing tens of thousands in development costs and funding and more. This is no longer about me. It is a problem that needs to be resolved for the sake of every single person that has been harmed by Mojang's illicit practices. Not only is this important to me on a personal level, after being tied up in this fiasco for around a year and a half with no results due to my financial situation, but it is incredibly important to the integrity of consumer rights as they regard digital services in the European Union in an increasingly digitalized world. Well, I'm not even sure his mod was forcefully killed. He seems to have given up on it out of an abundance of caution regarding the high potential for them to kill it in future. I seek funding. He didn't make it perfectly clear in his video. I seek funding to enable the possibility of initiating class action lawsuit procedures against Mojang to hold it accountable for damages it caused, particularly by abusing hidden terms and ambiguous wording in contracts and facilitating gambling for children, the latter of which has always been particularly blatant and continually occurred with the company's implicit blessing as evinced by its inaction. My prediction, most likely outcome of this guy's action, not even most likely significant outcome that I doubt will even happen, he gets loot boxes removed and servers shut down. The funding will be used for hiring legal experts to assess the situation and determine the best possible way to initiate a class action against Mojang, funding the execution of the class action lawsuit, such as investigation costs, witness acquisition, such as transport costs for key witnesses to be present in an eventual court trial, legal expert fees, any further cost necessary to the proper execution of the lawsuit. To clarify any possible misconception, this is no longer about me or my personal losses due to the project I showed in the video which started all this. Jingles B. Jenkins says, think he was perfectly clear. Mojang said this is a kid game, no guns, and his mod had guns, so he's suing them. He's saying here that this ain't what it's about. Not anymore. The actual lawsuit, and what is referenced at the end of the video, where it developed to, that's where he was starting out. That is not what the lawsuit's about now. Allegedly. Supposedly. I'm tasting a lot of salt. To clarify any possible misconception, this is no longer about me or my personal losses due to the project I showed in the video which started all of this. This has become about holding Mojang accountable for its illegal actions on behalf of the entire Minecraft community. The monetary goal of $83,000 was set based off of the consensus of legal firms that a class action lawsuit normally takes anywhere between 9 months to 3 years to complete. During this time, it can be expected that the lawyer must work at least 40 hours per week, which, according to the average hourly cost of a legal expert in Sweden, usually sits between $200 and $400+. The goal takes into account the lower hourly cost of $200. Takes into account? Surely you want to take into account the higher cost. The goal is based on the lowest and does not take into account the possibility of it costing more. Actually, is how I'd formulate this or how I view this, but fine. Assuming a duration of 1 year, the case is assumed to be... Oh, man! Oh, what am I reading? Assuming a duration of 1 year, the case is assumed to be relatively short due to the overwhelming amount of evidence against Mojang and clear violations that make it a really clear cut. Oh, bro, do not give this guy money. Do not give him money. What are you doing? What are you doing? What are you doing? What are you doing? This would amount to 52 weeks times 40 billable hours per week times 200 USD for a total sum of $416,000. Well, the cost may seem high up front. Hey, but by the way, my goal to have this pay out is going to be much lower than that. Nice. While the cost may seem high up front, this assumes that the lawyer would work 40 hours every week, which will simply not happen. Large portions of lawsuits are typically spent waiting for the court process and the opposing party to respond. According to further information and consensus online, Further information and consensus online. That is not a phrase I want to hear from something asking for my money. That 50 to 80% of time in lawsuits is simply waiting. That reduces the cost to $83,200. Okay, alright. So that's why it's so low. The higher range of the waiting percentage was determined here as the research phase of the class action has basically already been done. Oh no. Are you a lawyer? Do you know? Do you have any idea? Surely you'll only understand that after hiring an expert, yes? Evidence is gathered and would not require any further investigating. Oh, no. He had the jorts. He was a nerd who lived in radioactive gas. He was supposed to be based. Mojang suck. Trying to control what people do on their own servers in a game that freely allows mods generally and encourages people to mod and do what they want. And then trying to clamp it. Or even to put an ass-covering clause in that would allow them to screw you over in future. Sucks. You should be the hero, but you're not. Oh, no. The ideal end goal of this fundraiser is that, 1. Mojang is forced to pay out a massive settlement to each and every one of its users bound by its digital contracts. What, you want the end of Minecraft? With $100,000, I will end Microsoft and Minecraft. Okay, thanks for that. 2. Mojang is additionally forced to pay damages to children who developed gambling addictions. as a result of Mojang facilitating gambling for children. But they didn't, Kian. It's forbidden in their terms. Oh. 3. Mojang is forced to update all of its contracts to comply with current consumer protection laws and contract laws. I would say, like, this is the one. This is, like, the main one you should be going for. This should be the one. This should be the outcome. I don't think it's a scam necessarily, but I think it might be insanely misguided. At the very least.
Mojang is forced to pay damages to children who develop gambling addictions as a result of Mojang facilitating gambling for children, and that Mojang is forced to update all of its contracts to comply with current consumer protection laws and contract laws. So that first one, obviously, there is no damage being done to people by signing a deal that has a get-out clause, because Mojang hasn't used that get-out clause on you yet, so I think that's a hard one to argue. And even then, a massive settlement, Minecraft has 300 million players. Even the entire sale value of the company divided by the number of players would be $8 each. I do think that paying damages to children who...
I want my $8. I want my $16. I have 2 Minecraft licenses.
Develop gambling addictions is a bit more of a weird one here. I feel like you would need specifically complainants who were actually developing gambling addictions, which is not him. He has an issue of a different part of the EULA. And finally, Mojang being forced to update its contracts. This is something that might happen regardless of what happens in the Swedish legal system, and which would probably be a good thing due to the number of issues that people have with these very same contracts, which seem to be the discussion of...
Imagine if at the end of his video, he was like, I can't get Sweden to do anything about this. But what I can do is ask you, do you run a big server? Make sure everyone knows about this. Make sure that everyone knows the sword of Damocles is hanging over your head. And they're prepared to just cut you and screw you if they need to cover themselves, if there's any controversy regarding this content. Make sure everyone knows, make sure everyone's angry. Could have done something like that, but instead he said, hey, can I have 100 grand to try and get Mojang to give a payout to everyone who's ever bought Minecraft and save children from gambling that happen on private servers? Hey, Mojang has insane rules for private servers. Let's force them to make those rules even tighter. That's my goal. Let's make sure they really have to clamp down. Ooh.
Controversy after controversy in the community. But at this point, it's time to conclude. There is a valid and fundamental question in the IP laws that govern us, which allow for a company which produces a game to say that anything
Do I think activism like that matters? Not necessarily, but it'd be really fun. Right?
made in that game also belongs to them, but that is the current legal situation. Games are treated like movies where
He would still be based if he did that.
if you were to splice a Disney movie together, you wouldn't be able to say that's your property, but is a Minecraft YouTube video or a mod or a map actually owned by the person who made it, or is it owned by Mojang? For whatever reason, the legal default is for that game to be true, and so most games subsequently have much stricter rules about it. I mean, imagine modifying Super Mario 64 to have guns and then trying to sell it. Okay, apparently that's a real thing, but imagine trying to make money out of it. Nintendo would sue you so.
Okay, but in Mojang's circumstances, have they not specifically greenlit people to make money out of running servers with that use a modified version of the game via Patreon? Was that not mentioned in this very video?
Hard, and so Mojang are in a tricky situation that they could easily resolve by making clear that pretend guns are fine, or maybe by asking for an adult content warning on any server that isn't going to pretend their guns are fake, or some other solution that isn't waiting for months to respond. Their behavior here has not been perfect, but we can also say,
like, if Nintendo had been going, go ahead and make money off mods, and then was like, by the way, here's a bunch of rules for you. Fuck off, Nintendo.
by looking at this situation, that we are not lawyers, especially not specializing in Swedish contract law, but what I can say is that every Swedish government organization doesn't think that this case has merit, or at least enough merit, and even with all of the money he's raising, dealing with the world's most valuable corporation on an issue where they are well within the norms for the industry is a challenge, to say the least. I still wish him luck. It sounds like he invested a lot of money into a thing that Mojang aren't going to let him recoup, and even if the laws say one thing, I think Mojang would be best to give some goodwill to the community that ultimately built their game, and I think that that is something that applies to us all the same. Anyway, I had a lot of people asking me to make this video, and I hope...
Sorry, that video is unlisted? What's his name? I'm suing... Hang on. Kian Bros. What's that It's Happening video? It's unlisted. I have a little trick. Let's go ahead and rape his channel. Kian Bros. I might be able to find it. No, it's not there. How do I, what text would you expect to see in that video? Maybe it's not catalogued yet. Sort my dates, new to old. Yeah, the best I can do is get that video. I don't know, what's the,
People hate to hear...
Was that video we were being shown on the Kian Bros channel? Or was it somewhere else? What is that It's Happening? Yeah, unlisted on the Kian Bros channel. Can't get my hands on this one that's shown on the screen, sadly. Let me go and use regular Google. Googe.com, I mistyped. Motherfucker. Kian Bros. It's Happening. Maybe it'll be in a like fundraiser. Ah! It's here. All right. Oh no. That little soy grin. Oh no.
3 days ago, I posted a video showing some of the laws that Mojang, the company behind Minecraft, had been violating for about a decade. Little did I know that the call to action, which wasn't included in the original version but was later added because two friends thought that the Minecraft community may want to have a say against Mojang, would...
My friends convinced me to ask for money. Oh no, oh no. How does it keep getting worse?
Get unprecedented amount of support. In just 2 days from a single video, the crowdfunding campaign reached over $95,000. Which means that for the first time in gaming history, we may just have a chance to hold Mojang accountable for breaking European consumer protection laws through a fully community-funded collective class action lawsuit. I really didn't think that it was actually going to work, but like, holy shit, you guys pulled through. And because of that, we now actually have a chance. And to show my commitment, I am relocating to Stockholm so that I can be right next door to Mojang.
Oh, what is this? What am I watching? Oh, no, oh.
As in, this is literally their main office headquarters. Because you should keep your friends close, but your enemies closer.
Oh no, I smell disaster, I smell disaster. Warning, 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 warning.
No, wait!
I moved to be right next to Mojang, and I'm going to show them what a real gun actually looks like.
Passed! It passed!
Discord.gg/Mojang lawsuit. I'm a long-term member of the Mojang lawsuit community, and oh no. Oh no. Well. Thank you for sharing that video with me. That was much more fun than I expected. However, as per usual, I have to be careful with the juice I give you, because I need to make it last a week. I think I'm gonna cut it here. Maybe after you know what? Oh, I'll tell you what. Tuesday will probably go a lot longer than normal. We'll see about that one. But for now, I'm going to cut it, and we'll be back with more random trash tomorrow. Today, I hope you had a good time. I certainly did. Thank you so much for your viewership, your companionship, your incredible generosity. And until tomorrow, I'm going to go ahead and say good night, sleep tight. Don't let the Angus Steakhouse bite.